Self-love is not enough. Self-love is great, but it's just not enough. We all want to live lives of meaning. We want to live fulfilling lives, that we feel true happiness. Well, what is true happiness? What brings us happiness? Obviously, everybody, religious or not, knows that buying material items doesn't make them happy. Everybody knows that going on a vacation makes you happy while you're on the vacation, maybe 3 days when you get back, 3 days before because you're excited, and lasts no longer than that. So where does that leave us? What brings us that feeling of loving ourselves, loving our lives, and being genuinely just happy with who we are in our lives and grateful and appreciative of our lives? Thank God Judaism has an answer to this. And the answer is not the answer that I've been seeing going around social media all over the place. Love yourself more, self-love practices. You have to self-love, self-love, self-love. It's like enough. Self-love is not going to make you happy. Self-esteem, if you have low self-esteem, can make you happy. But loving yourself, I think that what Judaism has to say about self-love is as followed. I think, and I'm not an expert, but from my understanding of, the rabbis I've learned from and the texts I've learned, we are all a piece of God. Everybody has an neshama, a soul that is eternal. That's a piece of God. Not only is it lovable, but it's divine. It's God himself. It's holy. It's eternal. It's immortal. It lives forever. And this body that we were gifted has conflicting desires with that of the neshama. The soul, the neshama, desires closeness to Hashem, closeness to eternality, and spiritual pleasures, while the body is lazy, is lustful, is craving physical pleasures, a good meal, good wine, relief through drugs or alcohol, excitement through chasing thrills, whatever it is, like just resting, taking a nap, whatever. Physical pleasures is what the body craves. Even money, even things beyond just good food. Money, physical pleasure. Ego gratification, physical pleasure. But all of those pleasures are transient, right? We consume food, we taste that godliness, and we're happy for a couple minutes that we're eating the food, and then we're gone. The happiness that you get from a good meal doesn't last long at all. Same thing with wine, same thing with a vacation, same thing with a new dress, anything that brings you that physical body pleasure, it's fleeting. But spiritual pleasure becomes who you are, and that makes you a happier person. So where does self-love fall into this? A lot of what the advice I see online towards women, directing them to love themselves more, is like, give yourself a bubble bath, go on a run, take some time for yourself, meditate, go get a latte at your favorite coffee shop. Like, these are important things, but none of that is going to heal your soul and bring you that spiritual pleasure that ultimately makes you happier as a person and makes your life more fulfilled and more meaningful. We are not shallow people. We have infinite depth because we have a soul that belongs to Hashem. And that depth, that infinity, craves closeness to Hashem. So unless you're feeding your soul true spirituality, unless you're feeding it MS, truth, you're going to feel a lack and a void that you're going to be gripping at any physical pleasures to fill. No matter if it's shopping, if it's food, if it's relationships, whatever it is, gambling, whatever it is, doesn't have to be something bad. You're going to feel a lingering emptiness inside because your soul knows what it needs, and that is closeness to God, that it wants to feel that eternality. It knows it was destined for more. That's why all of us are like, wait, I feel like I'm destined for more than just like to work in my 9 to 5. Or like, wait, I'm like destined for more. Like, what's my purpose? Everybody asks, why am I here? What's my purpose? The purpose is to grow spiritually, closer to Hashem, become more godlike. It's not a secret. Judaism tells us this is the purpose, to do Torah and mitzvos. Okay, fine. So how can we increase that form of happiness in our lives and subvert the advice that we're constantly being bombarded with of love yourself more and then you'll be happy. Love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. Okay, fine. So I have found that actually by taking the focus off of trying to love myself more, because I was following that advice for a long time, but it wasn't working. Actually, by taking away from that advice, trying to love myself more and focusing on doing things to obey God more, I was happier. And I am not the type of person who is like easily submissive. Like, I don't love being told what to do. I'm very like free thinker, like to do my own thing, free spirit person. But I think that sometimes the needs of the soul so outweigh the needs of whatever the body needs, and whatever society is telling us we need. And so I found that true happiness for me came more from visiting a hospital than it did from buying myself a new dress, or came more visiting someone in the hospital, or came more from going to a funeral than from going to a party. It came more from studying Torah than from going on a walk with myself and listening to my favorite podcast, like whatever is being society tells us is bringing us self-love that day. All of that stuff is important, but feeding my soul with exactly what God prescribed always leads me feeling more filled up with self-love than the actual focus of loving myself more somehow. And I found that I used to be super consumed with hedonism in every way, like trying to just go do the most exciting and fun things on the weekends because I wanted to be out with my friends at the coolest parties, at the coolest this. I'm talking like many, many years ago. But that always left me feeling so much more drained. And even now, I don't feel tempted to like go to parties, and I don't want to, do things I used to do, whatever. But I still feel sometimes like, oh, do I really need to like make this all about Torah right now? Like, I could take a break. I just had Shabbat and I just had the high holidays. Like, why don't I just give myself a little break and like go take myself to like a movie or go with a friend to, somewhere, whatever, just not something religious. It doesn't make me as happy. And I know a lot of my friends and people who watch these videos feel the same way, because I talk to you guys and you guys tell me you feel the exact same way. You're happiest when you're reading Torah, learning Torah, connecting to Hashem, doing chesed. I feel happiest literally preparing for Shabbat or hosting people on Shabbat. I feel happiest caring for others, seeing how I could benefit others. It's a wonder. It doesn't make any sense, except for it's what the Torah prescribes us. So I want you to consider, if you are also like me being bombarded by all these messages like love yourself, love yourself, love yourself, think about kind of changing directions, kind of see how you can, replace these self-love. I'm not saying self-care is not important. Like, obviously do what you need to do to function and thrive as a person, but don't put so much emphasis on what your body needs and focus on what God tells you that your soul needs. Because in 2024, no one's going to tell you except the Torah. Literally, you cannot look anywhere. You cannot look on YouTube. You cannot read that self-help book. Like, nobody knows anything except the Torah. That is just the truth. We are so blind as a society, and that's why mental health drugs are on the rise. Depression, anxiety, mental health illnesses. Nobody seems happy, especially in Manhattan where I live, except for the people who I see are living out Torah Judaism in their everyday life. And I want that for you guys, and I want that for myself. I want that for all of us. So let's try, let's urge each other, let's pick each other up and support each other in our quest to cling to Torah and mitzvot, and let that be our self-love. Let that be our self-care. Let me know if you try this out, how it affects you. Let's leave a list of things we could do in the comments below. Here I'm going to share some of mine, just to name a few. And one sort of teaching that I heard that really inspires and fuels this idea even more is, I heard that when it's not so like revolutionary, I'm sure most of you have heard it too, like basically saying when you take care of doing what Hashem needs, Hashem takes care of your physical needs. When you throw yourself into holy work, Hashem makes sure all your physical work is taken care of for you. So for me, this looks like prioritizing Havrusa, please God, trying to get back into regular Havrusa, learning Torah weekly in the mornings, and Chesed, prioritizing hosting people on Shabbos, just in general, trying to keep a tighter Yiddishkeit in my own life, making sure I'm always learning and going forward and not falling backwards. Those, and in keeping up with davening, right? You know, giving charity, like nothing makes you feel happier than when someone asks you for money on the street and you have it and you give it to them. Like that, it makes for happiness. That really does. And nothing about that has to do with self-love necessarily, but that really does make you happy. So what are the ideas that you guys think of that brings you closer to God and fills up your spiritual cup? And let's see how much of that can sort of replace that dying need we feel for self-love. Because I don't think that it really looks the way that society tells us it looks. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe. Let me know what you want to see more of, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.